Welcome to today's Explainer. We're doing something a little different right off the bat. We're stepping way back in time, all the way to the crisp autumn of 1810. Imagine pulling up a chair for an intimate fireside chat with a true American patriot. We're talking about the life and times of Rudolf Spangler. This is a guy who wasn't just, watching America being made from the sidelines. He literally helped forge it with his own two hands. He was a silversmith, a master clockmaker, a captain in the Revolutionary War, and eventually a statesman. Honestly, Rudolph's life is just this absolute masterclass in dedication, true craftsmanship, and leaving a legacy that lasts. So grab a seat by the fire because this is going to be a fascinating journey. Just listen to his own words at 72 years old. Come closer to the fire. I will tell you what I can while the telling is still in me. He's gathered his grandkids around him on a freezing Pennsylvania evening. He's an old man now, right? He's feeling that chill in his bones, but he is just deeply, deeply eager to pass down his legacy. Because this isn't some dry history lesson. It's a grandfather sharing the raw, totally unvarnished truth of his life. He wants to make absolutely sure his family and, well, by extension, us, understands exactly what it took to build their world.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Part 1, the roots of a craftsman and his early life in York.
To really get Rudolf, we've got to look at where he came from. He grew up in York, Pennsylvania, right in the middle of this loud, super bustling German immigrant household. Picture a home that just constantly smells of baking bread and sawdust, packed with 8 kids, and the only time it ever gets quiet is Sunday morning when his dad opens the Bible. If we map out his timeline, his parents crossed the Atlantic back in 1732. Then, just 6 years later, in 1738, Rudolf is born right there in York. We'll follow him through his marriage to Dorothea in 1767, his incredibly brave decision to join the militia when the war breaks out in 1775, all the way to 1810 when he's sitting by that fire recounting his memoir. It's this beautifully full life, and it gives us a perfect structural roadmap for the incredible story we're about to explore.
Now, there's a defining concept from his early life we need to talk about, and it's a German word, Heimweh. Basically, it means this deep, profound ache or homesickness for a place you love but can never go back to. See, Rudolph's parents, Balzer and Magdalena, made this absolutely terrifying 8 to 10 week ocean crossing on a tiny wooden ship for one reason: so their kids could be born free. Honestly, it was practically a miracle they survived when so many folks didn't. But even after finding freedom in Pennsylvania, his father carried this heavy Heimweh for the green hills of Baden-Württemberg. It's a pretty powerful reminder of the hidden, emotional costs of immigration and freedom.
And that intense heritage built the absolute foundation of Rudolph's character, which really shines through in his trades. On one hand, you have silversmithing. You're working with tiny tools, extreme heat, and an incredibly unforgiving metal that highlights every single mistake. But man, when you get it right, the triumph is just unmatched. On the other hand, at clockmaking, it requires the exact same patient temperament. You need this impossibly steady hand to assemble all those intricate gears and springs. Rudolf believed with his whole heart that honest work doesn't just feed you, it literally makes you who you are. A person doing fine, honest work just carries themselves differently, with a kind of deep pride you just can't buy. He marked his creations Rudolf Spangler Yorktown, and that was his personal stamp of unwavering integrity.
All right, let's shift gears to Section 2, Love, Family, and Venison. The story of a truly lasting marriage. So at the absolute center of Rudolph's world was his wife, Dorothea Dinkel. They raised 11 children together, and incredibly for that time period, they didn't lose a single one to early death. That was a huge blessing, and Rudolf thanked God for it every single night. Dorothea was sharp, she was warm, and she had this laugh that could just light up a room. But their life together started with a pretty fantastic story. Picture this, January 1st, 1767. It's their wedding day. Now, Rudolf was a man of his word, and he promised his bride that their wedding dinner table would absolutely not lack meat. So what does he do? The guy sneaks out before dawn on the morning of his own wedding, grabs his hounds, and heads straight into Baumgartner's woods to shoot a deer. He loved telling his grandkids this story. He'd say, "Your grandmother has pretended for 43 years that she found this outrageous. But I noticed she ate the venison without complaint." I love that. It's just a brilliant little glimpse into their deeply loving, super playful 43-year marriage. I mean, they started with nothing but 2 pairs of hands and that boundless confidence you only have when you're young, and they built a truly magnificent life together. But as we know, that peaceful domestic life was about to be completely shattered. Section 3,
captain of the militia, and the call to serve.
We're jumping ahead to April 1775. The British have fired on militiamen at Lexington and Concord, and suddenly the stakes are sky high. Rudolf is 37 years old now. He has a wife, young kids, a thriving business, a home. He literally has everything to lose. And yet, he doesn't hesitate for a single day. He steps right up and joins the flying camp of 1776. Now, this wasn't just your average local militia. This was a highly mobile reserve force specifically put together by Congress for General Washington. We're talking 10,000 men from Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware, designed to be fast, flexible, and ready to rush toward whatever threat the massive British army threw at them. And get this, Rudolph's neighbors actually elected him captain of the 6th Company of the York County Militia. He found this intensely humbling, because being chosen to lead free men, to be trusted with their lives and the lives of their sons, to him, that was the ultimate honor.
But let's be real, the reality of war was completely terrifying. And Rudolf made sure his grandchildren understood that. He told them outright how frightened they were. Washington's army was retreating across New Jersey, and they were up against this enormous, highly professional, heavily equipped British force. Rudolph's guys, they mostly just had muskets and farm boys. But he told his grandkids something really profound. He said, fear and courage are not opposites. Courage is what you do despite the fear. He witnessed unparalleled bravery in his men that autumn. They stood their ground and did their part, even when it looked like the entire dream of American independence was just going to collapse.
So after surviving all of that unimaginable stress, Rudolf finally makes it back home. He's been gone for months, leaving Dorothea to run the family and the clock shop totally on her own. And how do you think she greets her war-weary husband? With classic, ultra-pragmatic German understatement. She literally just looks at him and says in German, "Good, now wash your hands and come to supper." No dramatic reproach, no massive tearful breakdown, just, okay, you're alive, let's get back to the vital work of living. Moving into the post-war years, Rudolf shifts into a totally new phase of service. Section 4, a clockmaker in politics. As this brand new nation was trying to find its feet, men of his standing were really expected to step up and help govern. So Rudolf serves as county treasurer, a burgess of York, and eventually he becomes a state senator in the Pennsylvania General Assembly. But here's the thing, politics was a deeply strange trade for a master craftsman. Think about it. In his clock shop, if a gear is wrong, the fault is totally obvious. The clock stops immediately and you fix it. But in the legislature, men can sit there and argue all day long, go home completely satisfied with their own opinions, and accomplish absolutely nothing. Rudolf used to joke that he often wished he could just pop open the General Assembly like a clock case to find the broken piece that was stopping it from keeping time. Yet, even with all that endless, frustrating arguing, he didn't regret a single day of his public service. He believed that a free country requires men who will stand up and govern it, and if good men stay home, lesser men fill the gap. You have to remember his background. His father fled Germany, a place where ordinary men had zero voice and no recourse against abuses of power. But Rudolf lived in a republic. He actually had a voice, and he knew deep down that using it wasn't just some chore or duty. It was the ultimate privilege. And he applied those shiny new American ideals of fairness straight to his own family too. When it came time to write his will, Rudolf completely rejected the old European tradition of leaving everything to the eldest son. He had seen firsthand how that old system just bred desperation and resentment among younger siblings. Instead, after making absolutely sure Dorothea was taken care of, he ordered his estate to be divided equally among all of his children. His reasoning was simple. He said, "We are Americans now. We divide fairly." Which brings us to our final chapter, Section 5, Wisdom for the Future and Rudolph's Rules for Life. So the crucial point is this. As the fire burns low on that winter night in 1810, Rudolf turns to his grandkids. He's lived this incredibly full, wild life, and he wants to distill everything he's learned down to its pure essence. Here are his rules for life. First up, time. He made clocks for a living, but he knew better than anyone that you can never make more time. So spend it on your craft and your family, not nursing grievances or holding on to spite. Number 2, honor. Your work is your reputation. Whatever you do, do it as well as humanly possible. Third, marriage. Simple but profound. Marry someone whose company you genuinely enjoy, just like he and Dorothea did. Fourth, service. A republic isn't a free gift, it's a bargain. You're trading your willingness to defend it in exchange for your freedom. And finally, number 5, heritage. Never, ever forget the ocean your ancestors crossed so you could be born free. Don't take it for granted.
Fast forward to 1810. Rudolf knew of exactly 3 of his original clocks, proudly marked Rudolf Spangler Yorktown, that were still ticking away in homes across the county. Think about that for a second. The laws he debated over might be totally forgotten, the roads he advocated for might wash away with the rain, but a clock, meticulously and honestly crafted by his own 2 hands, that would keep marking the hours long after he was gone. To Rudolf, those quietly ticking clocks were his truest, most lasting monument.
And that brings us to the final thought of today's explainer. 3 of Rudolf Spangler's clocks were still ticking away in his day. He spent his limited time on Earth building things: a beautiful family, a brand new nation, and precise timepieces that outlasted him. So take a moment today to ask yourself, with the time you are given, what are you building? What will your truest monument be? Thanks so much for exploring this really remarkable life with me today. See you next time.